Arguing over land, seeing castles unrelated to the war, and one fully composed song for Season 8 are a few of the clues that I've been putting together to prove that there will be an epilogue in Game of Thrones Season 8, and to tell you what will be in it. Let's go! You're now watching Because Geek. This video is sponsored by superherostuff.com. I know that many Game of Thrones geeks are also superhero geeks, so this is for you, overlappers. Do your eyes go wide when you hear the words exclusive Infinity War merch? Well, right now they have 3 of those exclusive items available for pre-order on their website. But of course, there's plenty of other stuff. Are you hyped about Deadpool 2? They have a great selection for that. And if you're hyped about the Solo movie, they also have a ton of Star Wars merch. One thing I really like about superherostuff.com is how easy they make it to find your favorite character at the top of the website. All you have to do is just click on it and then you can see all of the merch that they have related to that one character or franchise. I personally have a soft spot for Guardians of the Galaxy, so I got myself this heat-changing mug, which actually makes my morning coffee a lot more fun now. You can find all of the links in my description. So, ever since the news came out that the Almodovar del Rio Castle, also known as the High Garden Castle, would make another appearance in Season 8, talk of an epilogue has been going around the fandom. The reasons why it could be part of an epilogue are pretty obvious, so you're probably wondering about the reasons why it can't be a present-day scene. And there are 2 reasons. First, the Game of Thrones crew isn't going back to the location to film anything there. They are instead recycling footage from Season 7. And if you think about it logically, this would have to be footage that didn't involve any actors. The only way we could see those same actors again is if it's Bran looking into the past. But there's nothing special about this event for him to be looking into it. I mean, you could reach pretty far and come up with an explanation for it, but let's be honest here, that's really unlikely. Also, no, they did not film scenes for Season 8 back then because they didn't even have the script ready yet. The only footage that makes sense to recycle is footage of the castle itself, either the castle walls or an aerial shot of the castle, which could be used in the same way that it was in Season 7. As an establishing shot to let us know that the next scene will be inside of that castle. And I mean, you do remember why we need to see what's happening inside of High Garden, right?
How about that one? It's available.
You don't want High Garden.
I beg to differ.
We're at war. Daenerys Targaryen could come and take it back the day after you move in.
So who do you guys think will end up occupying this castle in the epilogue? Will it finally be given to Bronn? If Bronn survives the war, that is. Or will Daenerys take it back, like Jaime said, and give it to someone else? Some people think that it may be given to Sam. And sure, I can definitely see that happening, but when you think about High Garden being given to Sam, you have to consider a lot of other things around this. First of all, he's still in the Night's Watch, which means that he has given up his rights to hold any lands or titles. But this all depends on what's going to happen to the Night's Watch after the War Against the Dead is done, and finished, and over. Will it be disbanded, or will it continue to be active? Even if it remains active though, there is still the possibility of having the rules of the Night's Watch changed, and maybe even rewarding people like Sam for their incredible contributions to the war by letting him leave the Night's Watch, and giving him a castle where he could raise little Sam and do the thing with Gilly in peace, and maybe make more little Sams. I don't know, I'm getting a bit off topic here, but anyway. The other thing to remember is that this could be why they showed Randall and Dickon dying, if the writers ultimately wanted to make Sam a lord. Forgetting the Night's Watch vows for a second here, he is the new lord of House Starly, whose seat is Hornhill, but if he's also given the title of Lord Paramount of the Reach, it would make sense for him to move from Hornhill into High Garden. Even though Hornhill looked way more majestic, High Garden is supposed to be in a more strategic location. The arguments don't stop there though. There's also the idea a lot of people have that Sam will continue to be a Maester. And we gotta remember that Sam is a Citadel dropout, who even stole some books before leaving. Would he be welcomed back? Would they forgive what he did because it saved their lives in the end? Will the Archmaesters even have survived the war? I hope not. I do think that Sam would prefer having access to that amazing library instead of becoming a lord. But who knows, there's way too many variables here to make an educated guess. My point is that it's entirely likely to see someone living happily ever after in High Garden after the war in the epilogue. But now, after those news planted the idea of an epilogue in my head, I began to look for more clues of what could be part of it. And we got one report recently of filming going on at the Ballintoy Harbor, which is a location that has always been used to depict Pike. All we know about this scene is that it was filmed at night and that there were a few people sitting around the fire. The news tell us that none of the main cast members were spotted filming there. But not only that, Alfie Allen, who plays Theon, and Pilot Asbeck, who plays Euron, were posting on social media, which made it easy for us to learn their location, and it was nowhere near Ballantoy. So what could this scene be about if there's no Theon, no Euron, and potentially no Yara either, where people are relaxed enough to sit around the fire? My mind immediately thought of another epilogue scene. Maybe these people are the new Ironborn generation who are sitting around the fire telling stories about the heroism that the Greyjoys displayed during the war. And this doesn't necessarily mean that Theon and Yara and Euron died. I mean, Euron probably will die. But even if Theon and Yara died, at least this would let us know that finally Theon was able to redeem himself and earn himself a hero title, which would be really cool to see. Moving on to the north now, I think they will show us the wildlings being given part of the empty northern land that is just south of the wall. As its name suggests, it might become a gift again, given to them in order to build a new peace between the free folk and the, kneelers? I guess if there's going to be peace, they need to stop using that word. But yeah, this is my own prediction based on, of course, more filming news. There was a casting call recently for 5 extras that will do a scene without a script. Yes, it will all be improvised. And we also know that this scene will involve them arguing over land. As the article from Watchers on the Wall indicates, if it's an improv scene, it can't involve any serious political talk. It is most likely going to be a more comedic scene, kind of like this one with the peasant from King's Landing that talked about Cersei. No one has any idea what the context around this scene will be, but I think it's going to be the free folk arguing over the land that they were just given in the north, and I can see it being a pretty endearing scene. But other than land, they may also be given the opportunity to man the castles along the wall. Whether the Night's Watch is still active or not, a castle is still a castle, and after they've been fixed, they can be used as a home for someone who doesn't have one. Now, let's go back south and talk about Tyrion, because I believe that it's very likely that he will survive. And if he does, I can definitely see him being given Casterly Rock, which would be pretty fitting after the conversation he had with Tywin, where Tywin basically said that the only way that Tyrion would get Casterly Rock would be over his dead body.
And I would let myself be consumed by maggots before mocking the family name and making you heir to Casterly Rock.
And yeah, he's dead now. But there's also another outcome that I wouldn't mind seeing in the epilogue. And this idea may sound a bit weird at first, but just bear with me. I'm going to start tying this more and more with filming news and some other clues. The outcome that I'm talking about would be Tyrion being given King's Landing. But before your mind goes there, I'm not talking about Tyrion becoming king. This idea of Tyrion being given King's Landing goes along with the idea that there will be some major changes made in Westeros after the war is over. Maybe, like many believe, there won't be a throne anymore. The 7 kingdoms might not be ruled by one single entity anymore. And the Red Keep might be pretty destroyed, but if King's Landing is still standing, it should be given to someone. And I probably need to stop your mind from going where I think it's going again. I'm not saying that the rightful heir, Jon, will be dead, or even Dany for that matter. What I'm saying is that if they're both still alive, they might not stay in King's Landing. Now, I should backtrack a little bit because I can't remember how clear I was before in my videos, but I was pretty convinced that Dany would die. And now, all of a sudden, I am leaning a lot more towards her surviving. This started when I first found Jordi Maquiavelo's channel. I will leave a link in the description for you guys to check it out, but there is one caveat that the channel is in Spanish. However, he does have English subtitles on some of his videos, so you can enjoy those. But what is so great about Jordi's channel? Well, he makes analysis on Game of Thrones, but in a very different way from most of us. He doesn't analyze the writing, he analyzes the music. And trust me, Jordi has been able to find an incredible amount of meaning in Ramin Djawadi's music, simply by analyzing things like the instruments that he uses for each character, the way that he mixes those instruments together, and the pace that he plays them at. If I didn't understand why Ramin's music was so good before, it was certainly made clear after I watched Jordi's videos. Jordi can easily take apart and read between the lines of the book that Ramin has been writing for us. His music literally tells a story without the need of words. It's truly amazing, guys, you really need to check it out. But enough praising now, let me get to the point. Ramin Djawadi recently released a fully composed song for the 8th season of Game of Thrones, which turned out to be quite spoilery after you put it through the Jordi Maquiavelo filter. This song is called Truth, and it's the theme song for Jon and Dany. which has been evolving throughout the seasons and reached a climax during the boat sex scene. Ramin started working on this new final theme for Season 8 around October of last year, which means that he already had the scripts for the whole season available to him, and it's safe to assume that his new composition follows what actually happens in the script. In his video, Jordi explains to us what each part of the song seems to be telling us, and I can't explain it as well as he does, but I'll just give you a summary. According to him, the theme's first part lets us know that John and Danny's love will succeed in the end. The violins that were used to represent doubts and conflicts before are not the main focus anymore. They've been replaced by just the cello, which represents instead pure love, without any concern for duty or anything like that. Only love. And this time the cello ends on a high note as opposed to a low note like it did at the end of Season 7, when he was representing Tyrion's worry over John and Danny's relationship. The lack of violins and the cello ending on a high note seems to be telling us that even if John and Danny go through rough times and doubts, their love will succeed in the end, above all those things, giving us a clear answer for those who were worried about John and Danny not being able to work together after Jon's Targaryen roots were revealed. It seems like not even the aunt and nephew thing will matter to them in the end. The next part of the song starts to speed up a bit, and it sounds a lot like some sort of build-up to something, like the preparations for a big event or ceremony. And right after that is when Ramin begins to introduce a very well-known theme, which gives us a hint to what this big event might be about. It's the Game of Thrones opening theme, which, as we know, represents victory and power. This ceremony would, of course, involve all of the survivors of the war being recognized for their efforts, but since it's mixed in with John and Danny's theme, it seems to also be pointing to this victory being a result of their union, and so it would make sense for this big event to be a celebration of their success. Maybe their coronation. Jordi compares it to the ceremony at the end of The Return of the King, and we all know how big of an inspiration Tolkien was for George R.R. Martin. But that's not the best part. I'm going to play what comes next for you without saying anything, because it's so clear it almost requires no explanation. Listen to this. Would you say that it sounded playful? Childish? Oh yes. This has to be the part that plays when we see John and Danny's child. And I am convinced that it will be a girl. I can't explain why, but I just know that it has to be. But yeah, after that part, the Game of Thrones opening theme comes back in, mixing together with John and Danny's theme for the final climax of the song, and most likely the very end of Game of Thrones. There are no sad notes in the song, which points to both of them surviving. And yes, guys, I never thought David and Dan would go this route. I was of the same mindset as many of you that we would not get a Disney ending. But after listening to this song and really thinking about it, it starts to make sense. We tell ourselves that we don't want this happy ending because Game of Thrones has made us so jaded. But if you really think about it, deep inside, this is what we want. We've always wanted to see our characters succeed. A show like this with so much tragedy needs some sort of catharsis at the end, or else we will never feel satisfied. And trust me, contrary to what many of you are thinking right now, there will be plenty of bitter to this sweet. There will be plenty of difficult decisions to make during the war. Decisions that will most likely not be honorable and that they will have to live with for the rest of their lives. And I'm also thinking that these decisions may not only cause the loss of thousands of lives, but also the loss of the lives of all 3 dragons. Yes, I believe that one of the most bitter things that will happen is that magic will be gone completely by the end of this. And while Westeros will be safe, it will forever be missing that special spark that magic provided. But yeah, let's go back to where I was going a few minutes ago with the whole Jon and Dany not staying in King's Landing thing. I think that could also be part of the bittersweet ending. We've been waiting and hoping for so long to see the final person who will sit on the Iron Throne at the end. And we may just simply not see anyone doing that. But it also opens up new possibilities, new goals for our protagonists to pursue, goals that they may not have realized they actually wanted. In the case of Daenerys, she may have been too blinded by the throne, and in the case of Jon, he may have been too blinded by the desire to save Westeros. But for both of them, what they actually want is very similar. Having a family, feeling like they belong, having somewhere to call home. Dany has no attachment to any particular place in Westeros, but Jon does. Jon's home is in the north, so I think it's entirely likely that Dany's love for Jon makes her realize that she never truly wanted a throne. All she ever wanted was to go home.
I want to go home.
So she may be more than happy to go live in Winterfell with Jon. Now, with this context in mind, and the idea that they will have a daughter, reading the following casting call gains a whole new potential meaning. Northern girl, age 8 to 10. A straight-talking, northern accented girl. Someone remarkable for her dauntlessness and integrity. She's been brought up in a family of soldiers and shares their fearlessness. It's a very nice standout part for a strong-minded young girl with a fighting spirit. I think this could be the 8 to 10-year-old version of Jon and Dany's daughter in the epilogue. And then, when you look at the girl who seems to have been cast for this role, you can definitely picture Jon and Dany's daughter having this face. There is a big wrench in this theory though, and that is the fact that her director was Miguel Sapochnik, which means she won't be in the finale. But I still expect to see at least a toddler version of their daughter in the epilogue, and I want to see her playing with an older little Sam. Anyway guys, I have an important announcement to make before I end this video. Con of Thrones is happening at the end of this month, so I won't be able to work on any more videos for the next couple of weeks, but I am having a live stream on Tuesday, May 22nd at 1 PM Eastern Time, and I might have another one at 9 PM. Just keep your eyes on the community tab for more updates on that. If you haven't watched the video where I talk about what I think will happen in the first episode of Season 8, you can check that out right here. And if you're interested in an animated recap of the Winds of Winter chapter, The Forsaken, you can check that out right here. Big shout out to my most recent patrons, Veneris, Marianne, and Doc Holiday. And guys, remember to click on the bell next to the subscribe button to get notified about my new videos. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like if you liked it, and I will see you in the next one!